Today on the Rise of the Challenge podcast.
You can never go back to being who you were before. You really can't, because deep down inside you, you know that you can be more than society, more than your church, more than your government, more than your family, more than your own observations, and even yourself has told you you can be. And so that's what I love helping people do, because I've been through all these challenges.
Welcome to the Rise to the Challenge podcast. Joining today, he's a founder and entrepreneur. It's Nate Zeleznick. How are you doing today, Nate?
Alex, I'm doing fantastic. Hello, everyone out there watching or listening. I'm really excited for this episode.
We're so excited to have you on the show to talk about your rise to the challenge. What we like to do with all of our guests is go right to the beginning. Talk about where you're from and what you like doing growing up.
Well, I was born in a I was born in a larger city, but I grew up in a small town called Huntsville here in Utah. And it started off pretty quickly with some challenges. Around the age of 5, when I went to school, I found out very quickly that I was not like the other kids. I did not go to their church. If you know anything about Utah, then you know. And so I was also the youngest kid in my grade. I was one of those kids that just barely missed the cutoff date. So I was the smallest. I was the weakest. I didn't have hormone-laden beef. I had everything organic. So puberty got to me quite a bit later, and I was an easy target for bullies. So growing up from about the age of 5 till about the age of 16, I faced bullying at school almost every single day. And my mother had some chemical imbalance issues at the time. Doesn't anymore, but it was a very scary, even at home. I didn't feel safe anywhere, like ever. The bullies would actually come to my house sometimes during the summer and kick my ass. I mean, it was like even summer break. So around the age of 11, I started having a lot of very suicidal thoughts. Every single day, I really thought the world would be better without me. I didn't want to stay in the pain anymore. And then somewhere near the age of 12, around the age of 12, something amazing started happening to me. So if you're out there and you can actually close your eyes, I'll have you close your eyes and envision this with me. If you're driving right now, that's not you. Don't close your eyes. But if you close your eyes and just imagine what it would be like to have these dark thoughts all the time, every day. And one night you go to bed and you lay down on your back. You start breathing deep in through your nose and out through your mouth. And soon your blanket feels like it's 1,000 pounds pressing you down into the bed, and you can't move. And it's not scary. It's just interesting. And while you're in this state and you're just feeling completely paralyzed, imagine what it would be like if you had like the earthquake pills that Wile E. Coyote tried to give the Roadrunner. You've got this vibration happening inside you, shaking you, and then feeling like a pop and floating up out of your body and rolling over in the air and looking down and seeing yourself. What that would be like. Well, for me, I thought I had died, and I was really happy about it because I didn't need to do it myself. I was to that point. I was that in it. And then I snapped back into my body, and I started having spontaneous out-of-body projections after that. I really liken it to my soul or my higher self telling me, Nate, it's okay. It gets better. It's not time to check out yet. You have a purpose. And I didn't know what that was. I wouldn't find out for many, many years. But that did intrigue me enough to not take that final journey myself. And then around the age of 16, I started to, well, I'll put it this way. Some people, when they get their very first paycheck, I don't know what they buy, but I know what I bought. I bought a book called Journeys Out of the Body by Robert Monroe. It is the quintessential work on out-of-body experiences. It's one of the very first ever published. And I started studying the out-of-body phenomenon and the different non-local functions of consciousness. I also started martial arts training because for my, whoa, ever since my mom brought home a ninja movie when I was like 5 or 6, and also I got to see Star Wars, I wanted to be a ninja and a Jedi, like a ninja Jedi. And so at 16, I joined a karate dojo in a strip mall, but they didn't have what I was looking for. I loved the martial arts. It was very physical, powerful. Um, as puberty kicked in and I started building more muscle, I was just really good at martial arts. I really loved anything physical. But the thing that was missing, Alex, is the internal component, the meditative, the energetic, the real sense of honor. Because I knew I was more than my physical body. I've been having experiences for years at this point, but I didn't. I mean, this is pre-internet. Who do you talk to about something like that when you know nobody's going to understand, and all you got is a couple of books that say, "Yeah, it's possible." Well, I trained in the martial arts for a while. I studied different ones, whether it was ninjutsu, freestyle karate, kempo karate, kendo, and I just didn't find the one that really resonated with me. And fast forward, though, I loved the martial arts. I loved studying about the martial arts and the different ones from different countries. But when I was 23, I had something occur in my life that I like to call a synchrodestiny. Not just a synchronicity. This is a synchronicity that completely changed the course of my life from that moment forward. It was literally a lightning bolt moment where I would never be the same. And what happened is, still wanting the internal energy part, I ordered a course out of Black Belt Magazine, which I admit a lot of people are like, oh, that's cheesy. But I was like, you know what? When it says inner power guaranteed in 2 weeks or your money back, I'm like, sign me up. I get chi in 2 weeks or less. Awesome. That's like drive-through style. Well, I got this chintzy little manual. Literally, it had stick figures drawn in it. And it just said, hold your breath as long as you can, basically. Well, turned out that was a total bunk method, but it came with a VHS tape. And this tape had Indonesian martial arts on it. Now, I knew I had some shirts from Indonesia, but I had no idea about the country. I didn't know that it's the third largest or third most populous nation in the world. It's the largest Muslim nation in the world. I didn't know that there are over 700 different kinds of martial arts in this place. They've been whooping each other's ass for a long time. They've been doing this because tribal warfare with 13,000 islands, right? Now, when I saw this videotape, and it had the most beautiful martial arts I've ever seen, but it also had some people doing mind over matter stuff like breaking, right? So I think we've all seen people break a brick or a board, but watching people slice through stacks, and I mean huge stacks of steel and iron, stone, like quarried stone, 10 feet of brick with a smile on their face. No anger, no rage, no yelling. They're just like, there goes that, there goes that, and having a great time doing it. I thought that was pretty cool because obviously being a very physical young man, I was like, yeah, that's badass. I want that inner power. But when I saw people who could see blindfolded or even being blind, and now when I say see, I'm talking, these are people that on this video, and this is a documentary in Indonesia, they were running through obstacle courses. They were driving cars in normal Jakarta traffic, no closed course. It had military people who could shoot targets out of people's hands when they're blindfolded. And then it even showed blind people who could read printed material without touching it. Now, the skeptic in me that's like, prove it. I didn't believe it. I mean, I really didn't. But I've also been having out-of-body experiences for over a decade at this point. So I knew consciousness is not in our body. Maybe Jedis are actually real. And so I didn't really think that much more about it. I watched the video again. I went to bed. The next day I got up and I went to work. But on my way, I took a different route. I just decided I'll go that way. And I stopped in front of the Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind, which is a large campus for deaf and blind people to come and learn their navigation and their skills for living. And I watched a blind woman almost get killed right in front of me. with her dog trying to cross the street in front of me. And when I saw that happen, Alex, I knew right then I had to find those Indonesian people and help her. I'd never met a blind person. I knew nothing about blindness other than I didn't want to be blind, but I had to, and I did. And so I went to the internet. I went to the internet. At that time, it was to the internet, not on the internet. The internet was just infant. I mean, it was dial-up days. And it took 2 weeks, but I found them. I started communicating with them. And I sponsored the very first demonstration of this art in the United States. Now, the name of this art is called Merpati Putih. Now, that sounds funny to us in English. Merpati, what? Merpati Putih means white dove. And I thought it was kind of interesting to find a martial art where these people are fighting bare knuckled to knockout, breaking steel. And instead of having like a red dragon or a black tiger or something that's kind of an aggro, strong, powerful, killing animal, they chose the white dove, like the symbol of peace and justice for humanity. That was kind of odd. And as I started to communicate more with them, turns out they were looking for somebody in America to help sponsor a visit. And I took up that mantle and I sponsored the very first visit of Merpati Putih in the United States in 1999, the fall of 1999. And I got to see for myself, Alex, what is possible with the human mind and the proper amount of training. These blind people could drive my car. They could write and just on a line. Now that seems weird, right? Like, well, of course, write on a line. Imagine if you're blind, how hard it is to write on a lined piece of paper and write. It's like freaking impossible, right? It should be. They were able to come into my house, know where all my utensils were, and cook us all dinner as if they owned the house and could see.
Wow.
And then we did demonstrations at the Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind, at the Indonesian Embassy in Washington, D.C., at my alma mater, Weber State University, where I was able at 23 years old to convince all the news stations to come in and film this, people who could see without their eyes. And they started training me just a little bit, some basic breath work. But I didn't think that they were going to allow me to train. That wasn't even actually crossing my mind because they had never trained a Westerner or actually a non-Indonesian person ever in 500 years. So when we finally got to the end and we were going to send them home, and I'm so excited to get working with them, the chairman of Merpati Putih had talked with the 11th generation royal family heirs, the great teachers of Merpati Putih. And he said, Nate, we would like you to become the very first American or person outside of Indonesia to learn Merpati Putih. Now, if you can just imagine what that's like, your whole life, you grow up wanting to be a Padawan, you want to be a Jedi, and then here you get the opportunity. I had every single excuse in the book not to do it. It's too hard. Why me? Why do I have to be the special one? I just want to help blind people. Blah, 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 blah. Like so many of the challenges in our lives is just another bunch of BS when we look at the way that we look at them, instead of the opportunity for growth and life enhancement path that it really is. Not everything, but this definitely was. So when I started training, it's just, what are the chances of this? There were 3 people in the whole country that could train me, that were certified of a high enough level that could train me. One was at the Indonesian Embassy in Washington, D.C. One was at the Los Angeles Consul General's office for the Indonesian government. And the third one just happened to live in Salt Lake City, 45 minutes from me. When stuff like that happens, I like to say, well, the odds might be 1 in a billion, but the chances are 100% because it just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I started training with him about a week after they left. And I trained with him for several weeks until one of my younger brothers decided I invited him to come with me. And together we went through those ranks. And we actually brought the 11th generation royal family heirs and one of the 12th generation heirs over to Utah to personally test us, train us, initiate us, and inaugurate our school as the first outside branch of Merpati Putih in history. And there were thousands of branches in Indonesia at the time. So, a huge honor, right? Now, these tests, when you want to talk about rise to the challenge, when people talk about martial arts tests, I don't know what they might assume, but in Merpati Putih, people have died, including myself. In 2007, I died and came back to life. I chose to come back. Imagine, if you will, doing things along the lines of running 5, sometimes 6 or 7 miles barefoot on asphalt or on broken lava rock if you're in Indonesia. In Indonesia, it's about a 20-mile run. Breaking stacks of steel and stone after days of sleep deprivation and malnutrition. Hours of training and testing in the middle of the night, blindfolded, fighting full contact. You get what I'm talking about. This is not a strip mall martial art. This is exactly what you think of at movies. Like, oh, okay, so that's how X-Men are trained. Yeah. And there was no freaking montage for it. It was the long way. If I could have just pushed play on some motivational music, that would have been great, but not really. Because as I went through these different things, and I'm so fortunate and blessed that I had my younger brother with me, and we could do this like two brother lions that leave their cave in order to go out and spread the light. Going through this and then opening a business, not having any idea how to do that, hiring and managing employees. We weren't really taught how to teach. Our instructor just said, "You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You'll be fine." My brother had a lot of martial arts teaching experience before that. So luckily we had something to model it off of. Luckily. But when it comes down to it, starting a business is scary. Anybody who's ever done that, never mind the whole near-death stuff and running over lava rocks. Starting your own business is scary. And so many people out there listening or watching this right now who are tired of their job, who just make sure you know what you're getting into. Really talk to some business owners about what it's like. And then also remember, not everybody is destined to be an entrepreneur, but everybody can be. We're extremely adaptable, amazing beings of consciousness, and we can do so many great things. And may just not be your zone of genius where you have passion, but that shouldn't stop you from doing it if it's what you think you really want to do. Give it a go. Try it. It will be the hardest thing and most rewarding thing you ever do. Guaranteed, if you're doing it right. Right. So that, for 20 years, we owned one of the largest martial arts and meditation academies in the country. I've been so blessed to train thousands of people of all ages in the martial arts alone, in the energy arts alone, and in the full Merpati Putih art, which is all of it. Been to Indonesia numerous times, gotten to see some of the most beautiful places in the world. Died and came back to life because I got carbon monoxide poisoning while I was testing. I've had more thoughts of quitting than I think most people ever rightfully should without actually quitting, but I have a really hard head. And I did it all for a main reason. Some people want fame, some people want glory. I just wanted to help people who couldn't see. And I found out in pretty short order, we're all blind. We're all blind. Whether you can see with your eyes or not, that's hopefully you understand. That's not what I'm talking about. We don't see what we don't see. We don't know what we don't know until we know what we didn't know. And the only way to do that is to open your eyes, meaning your internal eyes, and really step out into the fray, out into the void, not the fray, but into the void of possibilities and create, and also pay attention to what's out there. There's so much that we don't see. We don't smell, we don't hear, we don't touch, we don't sense consciously, but the signals are always all around us. And we have this amazing vehicle of consciousness that is just an incredible array of antennas and broadcasters at all times. We're doing it's going both directions, in and out at all times. And when we step back and we use, well, I should just say this, Merpati Putih, and now my integrated ascension method, my business, what I teach It doesn't go against anybody's belief system because it's knowledge based, based upon experience. It's hard, which means that only the people who are dedicated to actually self improvement, let's say change makers, can do this, not change talkers. Change talkers, there may be other things that can help them, I'm sure. And it's something that once you taste your true power, you can never go back to being who you were before. You really can't, because deep down inside you, you know that you can be more than society, more than your church, more than your government, more than your family, more than your own observations, and even yourself has told you you can be. And so that's what I love helping people do, because I've been through all these challenges. Let's not even talk about COVID and how that affected the martial arts industry. Our business closed. Yeah, we went through that. But it's when we step up and we find what we're really made of. But so many people do that and they just they don't have a set of tools that can help them actually do something about it. And so they feel like they're spinning their wheels. And then they get locked into these feelings of shame or guilt, depression, apathy. Just don't care, because life beats them up and then beats them down. And so one of the best things that you could do when life beats you down is to get your ass back up and get moving. But it's also helpful to actually move in a direction, not just get up and run in circles. Very likely that's what you did to cut you beat down. So my goal is to help as many millions of people as I can find the tools within themselves, because we have the tools within ourselves. Help them unlock what those tools are so that they can make it through any challenge. They can rise above any adversity. They do hard things on purpose so anything else in life seems easier, and be present to their life instead of sleeping it away in an unconscious state. So that brings us up here to the present moment, more or less.
I want to go back to when you were talking about being bullied and going to when you were doing martial arts. You talked about being bullied and how those moments kind of hurt what you were passionate about, what you wanted to do because of the challenges you went through that and kind of the insecurities and things. Do you feel that the martial arts community gave you that confidence to break out of it and be able to do what you were passionate about doing, and how you found those people were supportive to you, than not feeling isolated and alone in your younger days?
That's a very good question. And the answer to that is no, not really. And the reason why, I'll tell you the reason why, Alex, and this is getting a little bit personal, but I think for those people out there who are facing a challenge, you need to hear this. I was so isolated for so long in my younger years, but even when I joined a dojo, I went through the ranks, and I felt like I was kind of part of a community, but it always felt like I was on the outside looking in all the time, even into my adulthood, many years into full adulthood. I felt like the outsider looking in, like I didn't belong, like people didn't like me, and reiterating and telling those same stories that the bullies had told me and that I had reiterated and made true in my own mind, because I kept repeating their words until they became my own when I was younger. And in those formative years before the age of 7, where everything is you're fully open, you're programmable. And it's almost like a state of hypnosis where what is said goes in and sticks. So with all of these things in mind, for me, no, it wasn't really the sense of community that I had looked for. And that, to that end, that actually lasted throughout my entire life. I've still never done anything with team sports. I've always just snowboarding, skydiving, scuba diving, paragliding, power paragliding, martial arts, you name it. I've done the individual sports up the wazoo. But when it comes down to the team sports, soccer, baseball, you name those ones, no, I never really did those. Because when I did T-ball, I was made fun of because I couldn't hit the ball as good as other kids. And so I stopped that. Scouts, which that really is a team sport. The sometimes the scout leader's wife would tell me I was going to hell because I wasn't of their religion. You tell that to an 8-year-old, yeah, messes with the kid. Um, so I just always felt like I was never belonging. I was the black sheep. And I'm going to tell you that's the best thing that could have happened. I'm going to tell you why. Because if those things hadn't happened, I never would have had the strength to carry the torch of Merpati Putti for as long as I did. Just a couple of us in the face of extreme doubt, hatred, skepticism, death threats. If I had been a just somebody who only had a team all the time around them, in order to be able to function, I could never have functioned. The other blade cuts the other way. It also handicapped me in a lot of ways when it came to building a team and being a good manager and leader, because I didn't know really what it was like to really be a team member. I thought I did. And so it took me years. And then being also the CEO, then you have to be the boss. So you have to be the person at the top, and all the crap flows uphill, trust me. And so it's an interesting experience that I got to call in for my own growth as a soul. I have to say, my soul is freaking genius. It just never does it choose for any of us. Wow, I just won the spiritual lottery, and now nothing will ever be hard again. That's not the way it is for anybody on this planet. Because I've met people in complete squalor living in a cardboard box, and they are so joyous and happy. And I've also met people with 10-figure bank accounts, that's in the billions, who are depressed all the time. They seem to have everything, and none of it matters. Now, that's not all billionaires. Trust me, I also know they're very happy on the outside. But, when it comes down to this, we make our way through life based upon what we're shown around us, right? We're all a product of our programming. But as infinite, unlimited, eternal beings who have a body at this moment, at any moment, we have the opportunity to change what we're doing, what we believe, how we're feeling, and the results. It just takes work, and it's hard, and it's scary sometimes. Because once you believe something long enough, it becomes your values. And once something is in your value system, things like a belief where I'm not valuable, or I'm worthless, or I can't do it because everybody said so. And those become your value, that you're a loser or that you're not powerful. And once those things start taking place, then it's a much more difficult not to unravel. But in almost all cases, it can be done. It's just important to find something that you can latch onto, something you can help unravel that knot with, and the right support people, whether it's a psychologist, whether it's somebody who does EMDR, does EFT, somebody who is skilled at psychological trauma release and moving into a new place. Hypnotherapists, I know some great clinical hypnotherapists who have just done amazing work for people with PTSD and all kinds of trauma. And that said, you can probably tell I'm a self-help, self-improvement aficionado, because I spent so many years being told I wasn't good enough, that I was a worthless piece of shit. You hear that enough, you believe it for a long time, and you look for every possible thing that you can find to A, either prove them wrong, or B, move into a place where you feel like you're not what they said. So couple that with out-of-body experiences and psi phenomena, you have a recipe for somebody who's a lifelong seeker. And I think that that's a good thing for all of us, though. It just depends on your motivation. If you're doing it based upon a motivation of I'm not good enough, well, at least you're doing something to get there. But it's not the same purity. as curiosity of, you know what, everything's all good. I just want to know, what can I really do? Who can I really be? How amazing can I make this life? What kind of a fun span do I want to have? And then stepping into that. I hope that makes sense.
How you mentioned the black sheep, because I think people listening can relate to that. They might not come out and say they are one, but internally they know that they match the characteristics of the journey that you've been on.
Yeah.
With your company today, what is the mission that you have for it? And how have you seen the reception from it? What are people noticing that they're bringing to you for them?
Good question. So, my business mission is to empower as many high level influencers, executives, professional athletes as possible to influence the people that follow them, to not just survive, but to thrive in the upcoming societal and ecological changes. Nobody can just turn on, just if you want to feel bad, turn on the news. Societally, we have a major breakdown happening in the worldwide. It's not just here in America. There's all kinds of stuff here too, but all over the place. From what I've read, there are over 27 armed conflicts right now in the world. We hear of a couple, right? Ukraine and Russia, and then Israel and Gaza, two. There are 25 other ones. We also, 50 years ago, there was no Pacific garbage patch or Atlantic garbage patch. 50 years ago, we didn't have microplastics in everything. We didn't have poisonous water, food, and air in almost every corner of the world. We're finding trash now at the bottom of the Marianas Trench, the deepest part of the ocean. We're finding plastic down there now. Animals dying from ingesting huge amounts of plastic bag and waste. We didn't have these problems before. And no matter if somebody believes in climate change or global warming, here in Utah, in the Salt Lake area, Salt Lake County, every single year for the past, I don't know, 10 years or so, we've had what we call an inversion. And when that happens, the inversion brings in pollution. And there have been numerous times where Utah has the worst air quality in the northern hemisphere of the world. Of the world. That didn't happen when I was a kid. That didn't happen 100 years ago. The thing is that we're being poisoned in our air, our food, our water, our brains. We're being taught what to think, not how to think, and led like sheep to the slaughter in so many ways. So why that's important is my goal, why I came back to life in 2007, I chose to come back, was to help more people be able to raise and elevate their consciousness, but also strengthen their body so that they can detox. Because whether people know this or not, go look it up. If you don't believe me, 70% of all the toxins in the body are expelled through the breath. It's not by taking detox pills, and it's not by drinking certain juices or getting those foot pad things that pull them out through your feet. It's by breathing properly. But over 90% of the population only uses 15% of their lung capacity ever. So what that does is that just keeps the toxins in our body. So we're not detoxing. And so since we're not detoxifying very much, and we just have more toxins there, it's no wonder that asthma's gone through the roof. Cancers are higher than they've ever been. Number one killer is heart disease. I mean, actually, the number two killer, if you want to break it down and go take a look on this, if you're curious, is what's called iatrogenic death, or death by medical, death by doctor. That's the number two killer in the United States. It kills more people than cancer. So since we have all these things going on, doesn't it make sense that if there was a natural way of breathing and exercising in a different way, you have to think outside the box, because if you do what everybody else has done, you're going to get exactly what everybody else has gotten. But if there was a way to think outside that box, use your body, use your energy, use your mind in a certain way that could help extend your life and be healthier, so you have a longer health span, wouldn't it be worth looking into? And those are the people that I really cater to, is the people who understand there's an issue. We're all going to die. We're all going to die. That's a given. That's something that every human being has the honor of doing. It's our life. It's like literally, it's our birthright. It's our death right. But there's an old country song that says everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to go now. It's so true. People want to be healthy into their later years. Alzheimer's is, I think, the number fifth or sixth cause of death. Why is that shot through the roof? Well, because we have aluminum in everything. There's other things that we know medically are causing these things in our bodies. So that's really, honestly, Alex, my main mission in life is to help as many people live as long as possible, as healthy as possible, as happy as possible, as empowered as possible, until they get to that point where if they reach enlightenment, awesome. And if not, that's okay, as long as they had a great ride while they're here. I can tell you from my own personal experience, and I don't expect anybody to believe this, you can find out for yourself without actually taking that final journey that death is not the end. It's just a transition. You're changing your address from one to another. You're going back to the all. Having taken enough trips beyond, I'm like, well, I'm pretty confident I know what's up. And I also know I am here is to help. I'm not here to be the shepherd that leads and protects everyone. I'm not. I'm here to help people be their own shepherd. And I just happen to be graced to be able to bring something to everyone that can help them do that for themselves. And it does take courage. I won't lie. It does take courage. Your other option is to do nothing. You'll still have experiences. We'll still all have the same ending where we cease to be physical. But until that time comes, would you rather it's sooner or later? Most people would say later. Do you want to be in better health or sickly? Almost everybody says in better health, unless they have hypochondria, where they want to be sick. Do you want to be powerful or do you want to be weak? I mean, these are questions that every single person can ask themselves, but so few do. They think that they're powerful because they say have dominion at work over their office mates, or I go to the gym. Okay, that may be one definition of power. But my definition of power is being fully embodied, energetically aware, always looking to improve yourself and others around. I call it the ABC. Always assume benevolence constantly and act benevolent constantly. And I fail sometimes. I learn sometimes. I don't fail. There's a winning team, there's a learning team. I'm sometimes on that learning team where I'm not as benevolent as I want to be. And then I catch myself and I go back. I'm not as present as I want to be. And then I take a nice breath in and I remember what a gift and miracle that just was, that I got to take a breath. I breathed in more oxygen molecules than there are grains of sand in the entire world with every breath we do. How cool is that? And just having that reverence, that awe for being on the planet and being alive, being able to experience and then being able to help is just, it fills my heart so much. And that's what I love to help other people do too, if they're ready.
Our listeners like to go even more deeper with our guests. When you're not working, when you're not doing martial arts, what is something you enjoy doing that people may not know you like enjoying? What's that hidden special thing you like to do?
Okay, so have you ever heard the adage that if you catch a man a fish, you feed him for a day? But if you teach a man to fish, then he has to buy 15 rods, a bunch of reels, a whole bunch of line, a bunch of flies, waders, a boat, a bunch of nets. Yeah, I've had a fly fishing addiction for quite a while. I thank my father for teaching me how to fish. My first fish ever was a carp bigger than me when I was 3. So yeah, that's something that a lot of people wouldn't know about me. But I have called in sick to work several times because my arm was in a cast. I couldn't go
Oh,
to work.
are there signature spots in Utah that are good for fly fishing, or is it something that you like to travel to find those hidden gems?
Utah is full of amazing creeks, rivers, lakes, ponds for fishing. I love Montana, Idaho. My favorite is to go Mexico, either in Cancun and Tulum area or over in Cabo San Lucas and go for some big rooster fish and jack crevalle. So I like saltwater. That kind of ruined me for freshwater, honestly, because once you catch saltwater fish, they're like 10 times the strength. But anymore, I stopped caring about fishing. So more often than not, Alex, fishing is kind of like golf in a lot of ways. For people out there who golf, some of the cool things about golf is, well, okay, so there are these restrictions on, there's obstacles for you. You get 18 places to go where there are obstacles, right? But every single time you put that ball down, and as much as you're enjoying nature, once you put that ball down, you are completely focused on that ball. And you have one shot to do it. And no matter what happens, you have to live with the consequences of what you just did. And so you go into a Zen state. Fishing is very similar to that. And I'm not talking the kind where you cast a bobber out there and you sit on your butt drinking beer, watching for that bobber to go down because something came by and ate something. I mean, actively fishing, hunting those fish, looking for where they sit, where they lie, trying to fool them. And then when you do, awesome, it's great. But just like with golf, when you shank it off into the woods or you cast a really expensive lure or fly into a tree, sometimes you just get pissed off and break your club. Break your rod. Well, there goes $600. Oh, warranty. But just in all joking aside, anymore, I'll just stand in the river. I'll just sit there and hold my rod and just close my eyes and feel the energy of the water going by me and just be in complete reverence for where I am and the fact that I got up today and 150,000 people died yesterday and I wasn't one of them. And that I get another chance at life today. And I may not win the Powerball and I may not make $1 million. I may not even do anything for anyone else today. But today I'm doing something for myself. Doesn't take from anyone else. There's no better than, there's no less than. It's simply being. And for me, that's what fly fishing really is. It's a Zen opportunity to be. And my more testosterone laden days of getting mad when I lost a fly or lost a big fish, they're over. I don't care. What I care about is the experience. It's kind of like, I guess, for a lot of people, Christmas, or if you celebrate Christmas, that hopefully as you mature, there comes a time where you're not that interested in getting gifts from other people. You're just happy you get to see your family.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love how you mentioned the shanking the ball in golf. That's me. I mean,
Yeah.
basically every time I hit the club or hit the ball with the club, it's like, okay, what woods am I going to this time? And to me, it's fun because I laugh at myself because I know I'm not good at it. But just like you mentioned, it's the experience and being out there, like being on the course. If you're taking a day off from work to go do it, or in your case, skipping work to go fly fishing, it's like just be rewarding yourself being out there. Like that's how I am with vacations. Enjoy the experience because I'm an ocean guy, like a beach, water. Like you put me on a jet ski, I will go sit out there for hours, not move, and just enjoy the landscape. Like to me, that's like my sanctuary in a way. And but I love how you mentioned that because a lot of people listening are going to relate to that. Enjoy the experience, and especially with holidays, take those times for granted because you think about the people at that table. sometimes you get to that next year, someone might not be there. Not saying from a death experience, but you might lose connection with that person. You might not talk to them anymore. And you will remember those times where they were in your life and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Final question I'll ask you for someone that's listening to this interview based on your journey and experience, what tips or advice would you give them to overcome obstacles, accomplish their goals, and rise to the challenge?
Okay. That one's an easy one, Alex. Everybody remember to breathe. Take a nice deep breath in through your nose, fully inflating your lungs. Exhale all the way out your mouth until there's nothing left and repeat. It's like the shampoo bottle. Repeat as desired. Do that, breathing slowly in through your nose as fully as you can. As fully as you can, not just full, fully. And then exhale all the way out until you have nothing else and then squeeze a little bit more out. Really, this is something that most people never ever do in their life is take a real, full, true breath. Breathe. Once you become fully present in this moment, the regrets of the past, the stresses of the future cannot exist. They say you teach what you need to learn the most. And I do. This is something I work on every single day, probably hundreds of times, reminding myself to breathe, be present, be here, be now. You don't know if you get 5 minutes from now. You don't know that. And someday you won't have that. But you do have this right now. So when you do that, you feel gratitude, love, and reverence for this fact that you get to be alive. You're the 1 in 400 trillion chance. That's what it is. Your chances of becoming human and being alive are 1 in 400 trillion. You won the lottery of all lotteries. Whether you're in a bad situation that's painful, hurt, diseased, abusive, regardless of all that, you won that amazing lottery of all lotteries and got to be human. So even when it sucks, I know, and this is hard to say. It's easy to say, it's hard to do. Embrace the opportunity to have a hard experience. Breathe through it. Only you can do it. There's no magic pill anybody else can do or give you. Nothing they can say, no attunement, no magic rock that you can hold that is going to do what you can naturally do by doing what you've been doing since the first second on the planet. And it's a beautiful experience when you breathe yourself into presence and peace. It's such a beautiful experience that often I weep. I like stressful times. I back away from my desk. I end my death, and I turn on music that I like that really resonates with me, and just feel into what it's like to be alive. And the fact that I just woke up. I woke up from a dream where I thought stuff was important, like making more money, or if somebody liked my post on Instagram, or to realize these things are not real. They're illusions. And if you can just breathe into it and enjoy that presence, enjoy that reverence for being alive, you're just going to have a much better life. Guaranteed 100%. You will have a better life if you, well, proactively enjoy it. I'll put it that way.
Well, Nate, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about your rise to the challenge. You're inspiring so many people, and we are excited to see what the future looks like for you.
Thank you so much. And, I would love to offer a gift, if I may, to everybody out there. Um, you know, speaking of a hard situation, about a year and a half ago, my brother and I just decided to part our ways in business because we have very different visions of how to bring Merpati Putti to the world. That was a very painful thing. And I have a lot of breathing through in that as well, still to do. But I like to also give. That's one of the things that I can tell you will help you also feel better is give. And so I have a gift for everybody who's listening or watching right now. It's a course, a free class on energy shielding, mentally and energetically, and also how to use your breath to bring yourself into quiet presence right now. So when you go to my website, which I'm sure it'll be in the show notes, but my website is iampure.energy. So not .com, way past .com days. This is iampure.energy. And when you go there, you're going to have the opportunity to get a free class. But for those of you who are really, you feel the call, you're ready to step up, you want to improve your life, you're ready to leave the old you behind, but you maybe want some real tools that other thousands, hundreds of thousands of people have used. I have a couple programs that you can go check in my programs page, my courses page. And if you do that, make sure use a coupon code. It's RTTC10. So R, rise to the challenge, RTTC10. And you'll get 10% off anything that I have there. And it's my honor and my pleasure to offer these things. And I hope that you can use them for the very best benefit for your life. When it all comes down to it, none of us gets out of here alive. So let's have the very best time we can over here.
Tune in next time to hear my next guest talk about their rise to the challenge. Remember to follow and subscribe on all major audio platforms. And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get a full length episode in video format. What path do you take to accomplish your goals? You decide.